Good day, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 40. I believe we've been doing shows for 40 weeks. As always, we're going to start off with a bit of a tune, and this was a request from the last stream that I did. Someone asked if I could find this, and fortuitously, Patriotic Archive managed to find it and put it up. So this is why you're going to get this tune. And that was the A Farewell to Gibraltar by the 79th Cameron Highlanders, apparently written in the 1840s when the 79th Highlanders were leaving Gibraltar going on their way to Canada. And apparently when they got to Canada, the ship's foghorn failed and the ship was in thick fog. So they got the pipers to stand on the bow of the ship and play the pipe so that other ships would know they were around, which is quite a good story. That was from Patriotic Archive, which has got a great listing of patriotic and military music, not just from Britain, but from around the world. And I recommend Patriotic Archive to everyone who follows this channel. Okay, good evening, guys. First of all, hello to Napoleon. How are you going, mate?
All right.
Good. And Adamant, how are you going?
Yeah, I'm doing well, actually.
Okay, well, we're going to, as we usually do, get a couple of first subjects going, and I know Napoleon's got one, so I'll ask Napoleon first. What's the first thing you wanted to bring up, mate?
This isn't really related to Britain at all, but the Arizona audits, which I think are going to be massive, they'll be releasing at the end of the month. And apparently it's going to be huge. And for those who don't know, the Arizona audit is basically, it's an investigation into the election fraud. And I think the Senate of Arizona was trying to delay it quite a lot. But now that it's finally here, people are saying that it's going to be massive, and I think so. So yeah.
So you think it's going to be a big deal, do you, Nathaniel?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty big, because that's like that's going to be actual proof that there was election fraud, and the blowback from that is probably going to be massive.
Yeah, okay. Well, that would be cool. What, Adam, you got anything to add on that one?
I really hope, I really hope it does end up being a massive story.
Yeah,
I kind of feel
I'd
that they
agree.
always, I kind of feel they always like at the moment they're just really just pretending as if these stories just don't exist and sort of backpedaling on this stuff quite a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did.
If mainstream media don't talk about it, then apparently it doesn't happen. You know, it's like one hand clapping in the forest.
Yeah, it'll be a good metric for if there's any actual spirit in the Republicans or anything to see if anything comes out of that. You know, of the right generally, because I mean they have a really bad habit of just of just giving up on these issues because the left won't broadcast it for them or something.
Yep, I totally agree. One of the subjects I'm going to talk about a little bit, but not much because we covered it last week, is there were big protests all over Australia yesterday against the lockdowns and against the forced vaccination stuff. And the mainstream media are either not covering it or they're saying, oh, terrible, awful protesters, when actually what happened is that the police caused most of the trouble. But there we go. We'll talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where they kind of they kind of jump on a narrative, and it's kind of a funny thing because some people allude to the idea that the police are in on some sort of conspiracy, and I think, well, I think they definitely are in some instances, but like if you look at the Sarah Everard vigils that we had in the UK, I mean that was an issue where the police had been sort of goaded for months to react quite harshly to anti-lockdown protests, and then suddenly a protest came along that the media actually liked, and suddenly the police were in the wrong for just doing what they'd been told to do for all these months, what they'd been praised for doing. So
yeah, but in Australia they've been very violent, and they've been very violent to like old people, little old ladies, children, pregnant women. You know, it's not like they're being violent to fit young men. They're not. I mean, they are, but not as the main point. But as I said, we'll maybe talk about that a bit later because we did talk about it quite a lot last week. Did you have a particular subject you wanted to bring up as the first thing, Adam?
Yeah. Have you seen this truck crisis thing that's been happening? The truck drivers shortage.
Yep. I'm not in great detail, but I have certainly seen some of it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It kind of seems like a big load of nothing, because I mean, they were saying about that it's due to Brexit, and it's probably not. I mean, there's a huge European-wide shortage of drivers anyway, but I mean, this started coming about in mid-August. Now, I work sort of in and around the freight industry, and August is largely a time when truck drivers usually get sort of laid off, and then they sort of get rehired at the beginning of September. It's just the quietest period. You know, they want to spend more time at home if they're cross-continental drivers and as such. And they don't. So I mean, if there was still a shortage in August, which there was, you know, that speaks of something much bigger than just this idea of Brexit. And it's kind of a funny one because like the media always likes to say this thing. They like to go, there was a perfect storm. You know, if they have to walk back the issue, they'll go, it's a perfect storm of issues. It was Brexit and COVID, and someone else pointed an article out to me today that said much the same thing. And in this instance, it kind of is, but I mean, it just kind of, it's funny to me because they spent the last 20 years telling us that self-drive cars were just around the corner, that we were going to get them any day now. And then they wonder why no one took up a job as a professional driver. And all the lorry drivers are all sort of like old men or retiring at this point. Which supposedly was quite a common thing for people to do in the army, was to go and get their lorry license with their education grant. And it's kind of a funny one, because I was also thinking about other stuff. I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like it used to be quite a big deal for if you were a kid, right? There was lots of kids that wanted to be like bus drivers. I mean, there weren't so many that wanted to be lorry drivers, but there were people that wanted to, there was even some kids that were like, oh, I want to be a police officer. I want to be this. I want to be that. I was quite shocked a few years back when I saw a thing about the amount of what kids want to do as their chosen profession, and like most of them wanted to be a YouTuber, which I just thought was kind of puzzling. I don't know.
A YouTuber,
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of that, because it's kind of like young people now sort of look up to and chase these professions that, like footballers and stuff like that, which aren't bad aspirations, but they're so limited in availability that
and it's totally dependent on talent too.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's so many of those
you
kids
can't just
set
make
themselves up
yourself
for
a soccer
failure.
player, can you? You can't just make yourself a soccer player. You got to have some talent to be a soccer player, I presume, anyway. And as for YouTube, I don't know. I've been doing YouTube for a long time. I've never made a cent. So.
well, that's the thing. I mean, the amount of people that do actually make money off YouTube is a tiny. I mean, you could take any. Like, I mean, here's a good one. You can take any sort of gamer tag style name and put it in the search bar on YouTube, and you'll just find dozens of these dead YouTube accounts where someone wanted to become a YouTube gamer and it failed. You just find tons of these, and you can still sometimes you find the worst ones of all, the most tragic ones, are the ones where you find where they've got hundreds of videos and they're still making them to this day, and they've got like 20 subscribers.
yeah. I mean, even the guys I occasionally watch like Rome 2 streams and stuff like this, because I like one of the very few games I play is Rome 2 with the DEI mod, but even those guys, the guys who actually do any good, they have to put out a video every single day, and they generally stream about 2 or 3 times a week as well. I would imagine that would be quite hard going. When I look at this little channel I've got, takes up a lot of my time, relatively speaking. So I don't know what these guys do who like have to put out an edited video every day, plus they stream 2 or 3 times a week. I couldn't do that. I mean, I know when I stream 2 or 3, I have occasionally streamed 3 times a week, and that's enough for me. Well enough.
Yeah. But I mean, it's good for like young people to have aspirations, but it just seems like we've got this issue now where so many of their aspirations are built around things that are, I don't want to sound like an old boomer, but unrealistic. I know that's the cringe thing that every parent says. Oh, I just want to be realistic, but they are sort of chasing after things that are never ever going to happen.
Yeah,
and wouldn't even leave them fulfilled even if they did.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I think there's a lot of unrealistic aspirations around amongst young people on the right as well as on the left. I think there people have got some unrealistic ideas, particularly some young people, about things that can and cannot be done. And I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, in terms of the truck thing, I mean, to some degree, we're even getting that in Australia. So it's certainly, I don't think, anything to do with UK leaving the EU, because like Australia's got nothing whatever to do with the EU. But I'm also noticing there are some things that are running out on supermarket shelves, which they claim is something to do with transport stuff and obviously lockdowns as well. But I'm not sure. I don't think anything good's happening at the moment, put it that way.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as I said, like I just think they spent so many years telling us that self-drive trucks and everything was going to be right around the corner, and this whole
all the truck drivers will be out of work.
Yeah. There was a guy that ran for president in America on that exact argument, and it's just I mean, I'm very sort of skeptical about a lot of the tech stuff anyway. I think that technological advancement has just in the last couple of years slowed down a bit. And I mean, if you can go on YouTube actually and watch dash cam footage of people where they're taking part in sort of public road beaters of self-drive cars, and some of the footage is pretty shocking.
Yeah, I've always doubted this self-driving car stuff. Here's Royal Oak.
Evening, boys.
Good day, Royal Oak. How are you
All
going?
right.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Look, we weren't sure if you were going to be able to join us, but I'm glad you have been able to. Adam was just talking about the supposed shortage of HGV drivers and what have you.
Yeah.
And also pointing out, you know, for years they've been telling us that we're going to have self-driving trucks, and apparently that's not the case. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, Elon Musk very famously. Elon Musk, by the way, is someone who is a complete charlatan in my view. He's just promised loads of things that have never happened. He's been saying since 2014 it'll be the next year. He said, "Oh yeah, by next year we'll have it ready. By next year we'll have it ready." And it's still. I think, to be fair, I think they're starting to have some commercial self-driving trucks in. I think there's like one highway in California they've run them on successfully. But in terms of like in terms of like normal roads, they'd have to be pre-programmed, and there's things like road signs and things like that they can't read. And you can go on the internet and even see like Teslas on autopilot like smashing into people on the motorway. Like I don't know. I think he's someone. Obviously, he's a businessman. He's got to look out for his business's interest. Another thing as well with Tesla. Tesla, to make their value back in stock, I believe they'd need like 1,000 years of profit. They only sell something like 50,000 cars a year. They're not particularly large trader of cars, but that's beside the point. We're talking about trucks, aren't we? I think it's people have been saying it's because of the Brexit thing. Also, I think people haven't mentioned that France and Germany are also having HGV driver shortages. I think HGV driving particularly, you can say this is deliberate or you can say it's not deliberate, but a lot of people, you know, it's part of a wider problem of people just being trained to go into university and then being trained to do office jobs. I believe the target was, I believe under Tony Blair there was a target of 75% of people going to university, when in reality there's never going to be a society that needs, you know, 75-80% of people to go to university. You need people with those kind of key skills like HGV driving, you know, trade stuff and things like that. But I don't know. I think to an extent, like as long as people like aren't, you know, going hungry, whatever. Like the supermarket shelves to me seem like in a fairly decent enough way, and I think that it will push up demand for these kind of drivers and it will increase their wages. So I think Bid Food, I think it was, as said they're going to pay their drivers an extra $5,000 a year because of
well, that would
demand.
be good.
And Waitrose as well, apparently for full-time lorry drivers is now offering £52,000 a year, which in old money would be quite a lot, but even now it's quite a lot. But
I presume that's not a starting wage, is it?
No, I believe I'm not sure how many hours it would be, but I think there was a news story running that they were hiring lorry drivers for 52 on a salary of 52,000 a year. But I don't know if that's entry level, but that's quite a lot for a lorry driver.
Well, I know they've been. I mean, Adam knows more about this than I do, and no doubt he'll comment in a sec. But I do know that like HGV drivers, their pay and conditions have actually got worse overall over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Like these different industries, I suppose may go. Well, a lot of industries have trended down, but I think, you know, perhaps a positive to see out of, you know, the lack of HGV drivers is that there will be more pay for HGV drivers or people that want to go into those kind of industries. But yeah, I don't know, 52,000 a year, not too bad probably for a HGV driver.
Adam, you got anything else to say about this? Is it your subject?
I suppose, yes. Since talking about truck drivers generally, I mean, it's kind of a funny industry in that they probably do deserve quite a lot of money because it can be like, especially when you get to the point of like fines for everything on every little thing that the driver is usually responsible for. It can get pretty excessive, you know. If
they're away from home a lot as well, also, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, let's say you're delivering on the continent and you get off and you've got a transit document to get you across France into Germany, and you're supposed to get your transit document closed at a specific office, but you can't find it because it's in the middle of bloody Dijon or somewhere, and you have to go to another office. That alone can incur you fines in sort of like the tens of thousands. But then at the same time, it's kind of a job for sort of like broken, lonely men. I mean, a lot of these sort of truck drivers you see, they're not exactly sort of specimens for so it's not really something. What I'm getting at is it's not really something you want to encourage as an industry, to build up, but it is something you need. So
I don't know. I mean, in terms of driverless stuff, I just think if you've got like a 20-ton truck, I really want a driver in it, just in case a little child or a little old lady walks in front of that truck. I wouldn't really trust that. I had to stop it. I really wouldn't.
I don't think at least not in this country. I don't think we'll see widespread use of driverless cars or trucks. Realistically, I just think the technology is not there.
No, certainly not at the moment. That's what I believe.
Well, maybe next year, if you believe Elon Musk. Maybe next year. Who knows?
Yeah. Always. There's free beer tomorrow. Yeah. Napoleon, anything on that one?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think truck drivers should get paid less, because I think what Armin said about them being like quite lonely men. I mean, I can fully understand that, because I don't think they really have that much time for relationships, because all the truckers I know, they're whizzing about the country all the time, staying in one place for like a couple of days and then just zooming off at all hours of the day. So I think that they definitely should be paid more. Although I don't know, are truckers paid on a commission basis?
Not usually, not as far as I'm aware.
Oh, okay, so they're just like paid a wage.
We don't, like, I know in America a lot of truck drivers are owner drivers, so they own their own rig. But I don't think that's very common in the UK, is it?
No.
Like, when I was a young lad, there were a lot of small transport companies, and I don't think there's that many of those there anymore.
Well, I mean, the cost of running a truck now is really prohibitive. So they no individual can really pick it up, or even a small team of people. And the thing is as well, like even where I work for a fairly small firm that doesn't do freight directly, but deals with freight companies. But even us, because of the legislation, we have to be attached to a giant continental parent company, because it requires many millions of pounds to get into the industry, because of all the red tape, because of
over-regulation.
You need accounts, just holding accounts with money in them to cover certain things, on the just in case, which you might never even touch. Deferment accounts, stuff like that. It's
insurance.
Yeah.
It's way overboard. It really is. No, I mean, as I say, in Australia, there's also a shortage of truck drivers, so I think it's a general thing. I don't think the China virus lockdowns have helped at all, because of, obviously that's going to affect moving goods around and warehouses and all sorts of stuff like that. I believe that what Mitch said, that I put up on the screen here, is absolutely true. Back in the day, British truck drivers were really undermined by a lot of the Eastern drivers who would work for far less money, like Eastern European drivers. So, as usual, like the Brits got screwed over when we were in the EU. It remains to be seen whether they'll get unscrewed now that we're supposedly out of it. But,
well, I mean, the thing is, right, the quickest way to save money on logistics, if you're a company, is to hire an actual good logistics person who can plan out routing and storage in an efficient way, or paying for a good system, well, usually on top. And most companies don't want to do that. So, like, I mean, Mitch brought up about Eastern European drivers being used to drive down wages, and that's 100% true. But a lot of the time, that was just used because those companies didn't want to have to improve their logistical networks. So they would essentially, and this is one of the things where who is it, Audi? This is one of the things where Audi kind of made up their bottom line, which is why they could stock cheap food, was they were just a bit more on it with the logistical game than a lot of other companies. So you get like, I mean, people always say you can't drive a truck around empty because of the cost, or you can't even drive around hard. You'd be shocked actually at how many sort of 28-ton lorries are driving around with like 4 tons of cargo on.
Yeah. I can believe that.
And they just make up as much of the cost as they can by just hiring the cheapest drivers they can. And I mean, during February in the winter months, I had the very grueling job of going out first thing in the morning and trying to organise this little lorry park just before I went into the office. And
Yay!
I mean, the difference in quality between, let's say, a British driver and a continental driver. People say it's overblown, but it's enormous. You know, I was getting drivers in who couldn't reverse into a space that was big enough for 4 trucks. You know, and I was having drivers that couldn't turn around without like knocking someone's wing mirror off in a space that was, you know, literally big enough to land a couple of helicopters in.
I suppose it's the quality of the training that they get, and also obviously how much experience they have. You know?
Yeah, well, see, that's the other thing as well. Like in the UK, because of how harsh our insurance companies can be, you can't just get a lorry license and then just jump in a cab for a company and start driving. You need to go and do some years in a 7.5 or maybe an 18-ton and sort of work your way up. And you can't. Yeah. But continental drivers will often from the east will often just jump straight from getting their license straight into a cab and be sent to drive like from Romania to the UK and back.
Yeah, for about half for a low wage as well, which is forcing down the wages of the British lorry drivers, obviously. And I will say lorry drivers to make Cardamom happy in the chat. I use lorry and truck, I must admit, because in Australia the truck is probably more common, but I've still heard people in Australia use lorry, not as much, but I use both pretty much because they're the same thing as far as I can work out.
In the industry, we call them tractors.
There you go.
The cab is the tractor, then you've got the trailer, and a truck is specifically something that's non-articulated, like an 18 or a 7.5 ton.
Oh, cool. It's a bit like, you know, people call trains, where in fact they're engines plus carriages or trucks. So
yeah.
All right. I think we'll move on to Rollo. What's the first thing you wanted to bring up, mate?
I don't know. you were talking about the lorry driver thing. I mean, I don't know. I was sort of thinking like Slovak lorry driver insurance. Anyway, you probably wanted to talk about the cabinet shift, didn't you, or whatever?
Yeah, we're certainly going to talk about that and the what's it called? USCOS thing is the two subjects I was thinking are going to be our main ones for this week, which is the Australian, British, US submarine deal, which I've been researching into. But we specifically wanted to get you on for your views on the cabinet reshuffle.
All right, let's have a look. So they've made the ones that I can remember off the top of my head. Nadine Dorries has been made culture secretary, which I think is probably a positive move. She's like a evangelical Christian lady. She's, you know, talked about she's anti like statues coming down, anti like wokeism, things like that. So she's an all right, I guess, appointment. Nadim Zuhari, even though he promised, he said he was going to do vaccine passports, and then the government said he wasn't, and now he's been removed as vaccines minister, which is interesting. Anything else? I think there's only one Remainer, or perhaps 2 Remainers, I think, left in the cabinet. It's only Oliver Dowd, and I think Sajid Javid's still in there as well. I think, has Dominic Raab gone? I think he might have done.
Yeah, the biggest deal was Raab being swapped for this lady for Foreign Secretary, I believe.
Oh, yeah, he got transitioned into Justice Secretary, I think.
Yeah, they've made I didn't know they've made Plymouth's finest, George Eustace, has been made MP Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. Interesting. Brandon Lewis, he's been made Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. Brandon Lewis is all right, isn't he? Grant Shapps, he wanted to renationalise railways. He's been kept on as transport. Therese Coffey, who's a Liberal, she's been made Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. Sajid Javid.
What about the Foreign Secretary, Wallow?
The new
one.
They've switched. What's Priti Patel doing now? She's Home Secretary, is she? No, she is Home Secretary.
Yeah, Priti Patel didn't get moved, but I'll have something to say on that in a minute. But what I was interested in was your views, Royal Oak, on the new Foreign Secretary.
Foreign Secretary.
Liz Truss.
Liz Truss, I think.
Oh, pork and cheese, unacceptable. If anyone remembers that. She gave a really angry speech about how we import pork and cheese. It was quite comical, I remember. Anyway, what do I think of her? Isn't she? She's an ex-Lib Dem, isn't she? That's pretty terrible. Don't particularly like Liz Truss. People are sort of. I think there are a few people bigging her up as a potential leader of the Conservative Party. I think there was a poll that said either her or I think Rishi Sunak are most likely to become the next Prime Minister after Boris Johnson. But it's too early to say, probably. I think they'll keep Johnson on for a bit. So
a woman or an Indian, what a choice.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't know. I voted for last year's leadership election. I voted for Dominic Raab. I would vote for Dominic Raab again, probably. I don't think he's terrible. I suppose it's damage control, isn't it? Really. But Nadine Dorries is all right. So there you go. There's a positive there.
So would you say overall you think the reshuffle was a good one?
Well, I don't really know. They've mostly kept people on, haven't they? There's no real surprises.
Well, they kept the defence secretary, which I was pleased about because he's quite popular with the Navy, even though he was a British Army guy. So that was.
Didn't he massively cuck though on Question Time over GB News? I mean, it's tiny.
I didn't see it, and I'm actually going to ask you guys about that because I haven't been following it, but I've been hearing little bits here and there. So I will ask you guys about that in a minute. Adam, what's your opinion on the cabinet reshuffle overall?
I mean, I don't know. It kind of seems like they've just put a few sort of popular types in, you know, to basically give a little bit of a voice to the sort of social conservative side. Since they have kind of screwed over their electorate literally just a week earlier. The one that I wasn't sure about was Michael Gove. I can't tell whether what he's been given is a promotion or a demotion in sort of realistic terms. Like he's because he's now in charge of like 2 departments. I think he's been given the job of keeping the British Union together.
Yeah,
but he's also now in charge of housing.
Boris Johnson also. Yeah, he's also given him the job of. Sorry, he's been given the job as well of fixing logistics for Christmas.
Yeah,
for lorries and shit like that.
The thing about keeping the British Union together is actually an extremely big job. I would suggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not going to be doing that alone, is he? I mean, that would be a total government effort. It just seems like he's the guy that's sort of been put as the figurehead for it. But I mean, like the thing is, housing and local government has always been quite a minor role. Like, yep. I mean, Eric Pickles used to do it at one point, and I mean, I think even his own mum has to look him up on Wikipedia before he comes round for Sunday dinner. So I don't. But now it seems to be a more important role than it used to be. So I don't know if like I saw one paper describing it as Boris keeping his enemies close, and I thought, is it really that close? I suppose housing and local communities kind of keeps you in and around number 10 quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Gove's important in the Conservative Party, as far as I can work out.
Mm.
So, and I guess like giving him the job of keeping the union of the United Kingdom together would be one way of saying, look, guys, this is kind of one of the most important jobs there is in some respects.
Mm.
So maybe there's that. But I mean, on that note, let's ask our Scotsman on the panel tonight. What do you reckon, Napoleon?
Sorry, what?
Michael Gove.
Well, Michael Gove being given responsibility for maintaining the union between England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Michael Gove. So, please don't hate me. I've got no fucking clue who Michael Gove is.
Well, there you go. That's how effective he'll be in Scotland. That's how effective he's going to be in Scotland.
People often forget he's actually his dad was like working class and from Aberdeen. Like he's just lost the accent. It's like
is he Scottish? I didn't realise.
He's from Aberdeen. Yeah, he's from Aberdeen.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
That's why they've given him the Scotland job.
Well, we all know about Scotsmen with English accents. I mean, we have Aussie on here quite regularly. So
He used to make a much bigger deal out of it than he does now. I remember him being on TV with a kilt at one point. Like,
oh, okay.
and I remember him also putting on sort of a Scottish accent that he did manage to pull off because he has at least got some roots, but that was about it.
Well, maybe. I mean, I suppose we can hope he has some sort of understanding from his family and roots about Scotland, and maybe he can do some good in that respect. We can hope. We can hope. We can hope.
Yeah. Jacob Rees-Mogg is leader of the Commons. That's good.
Well, he has been. They haven't moved him, have they?
No.
Yeah.
What about? I don't know how you pronounce her name. Is it Sula Braverman? She's the new Attorney General. I may be getting her mixed up with someone else, but I think she might have been the one that brought up cultural Marxism on the BBC. I'll need to double check that. I might be getting that mixed
It was
up.
yeah. There's been some stuff released about it's the black one. I can't remember her name. Kemi Bialikot. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Bialikot? Possibly something like that.
Something like
I can't do names. Yeah, there was a recording that got released by Vice of her saying that she thinks trans women aren't real or something, and also she doesn't like gay marriage.
So she speaks the truth then. Good. Well,
yeah,
good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mitch has made a comment in the chat here that I just put on the screen, which gives me an excuse to say something that I wanted to say about this, which is not much. Mitch says, was expecting Gove to replace Patel, considering everyone knows Gove is anti-mass immigration and likes the rhetoric, yet Bowden got something to say of him in real something or other.
Yeah, there was a talk that Bowden gave at one point where he mentioned that when he was in the Monday Club, he met with Gove. Gove came along to one of his talks.
I remember. Yeah, thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think, like he said, Gove agreed with him on everything, but then Gove was kind of saying, Gove said, "Oh, but it's not very sort of British to fight back." And then Bowden made the argument that, well, I mean, we had one of the bloodiest civil wars ever. Like, how is it not in our nature to fight back?
Yeah,
or something along those lines.
You wouldn't have conquered a third of the world if you didn't fight back, in my opinion. But there we go.
I'm actually I'm on the BBC website looking at the at the reshuffle at the new cabinet, and I've only just noticed that at the top you can separate them, right, based on newcomers and new roles. And I was looking at that, and I've just noticed on the end they've got a BAME button.
Yeah, you Bayman women. I said that when I put it up in the Discord. I said because it's the Bias Brainwashing Corporation, of course, you can divide them up by women and BAME people. and I love that the BBC website says BAME is a common expression for whatever it means. And the only people I've ever heard use it are the BBC, but there we go.
George Eustace is BAME. He's from Cornwall, so anyway,
yeah,
that fell flat.
I think this one is. This is apparently Sojo. I don't know if it is, mind you, but he says he is. Gove said it's too late. Laughing out loud. I don't think it is too late, but there we go. Look, the one thing I would say about this is as far as I can see, the only reason Priti Patel was not sacked. Well, there's two reasons. One is she's a minority woman. So if you sacked her, that the BBC and people like that would all go around and say, "Oh, this is terrible because she's a ethnic minority woman," even though she has totally failed to protect Britain's borders from illegal immigrants. And also, of course, I mean, the buck really stops with Alexander Johnson. If he really wanted to stop those immigrants, it would have been stopped. He doesn't.
Well, I think probably sacking Priti Patel. I don't think that the lefty media is very fond of her because I think they sort of think that she's like some sort of anti-immigration hawk, don't they? Because
she never does anything. She says things, but she never does anything. It's very much like the modern Conservative Party. They talk big and never deliver.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think Dover's a distraction anyway, to be honest. But anyway, because there's only I think it's gone up a bit, but compared to legal migration, there's not actually that much going in.
Well, yeah, it's not that. The guys coming across in the dinghies across the channel are not even all that much compared to the people coming in
legally
via aircraft illegally and overstaying visas and just disappearing and all that kind of stuff. That's much bigger than the guys coming over in dinghies. And of course, as you pointed out correctly, the legal immigration dwarfs that. So, I mean, the whole thing is just a really bad joke at the moment, to be honest.
Right, but to keep some reference on this whole thing, I'm pretty sure the amount of people coming into Dover on little dinghies at the moment
it's gone up a bit. Yeah.
is more per year than what we were getting before Tony Blair.
Oh yeah, no, it's gone through the roof. It's absolutely gone through the roof, and we should stop it. I mean, we are paying millions of pounds a year to France to stop it, and the French are actually encouraging it. Yeah, they're doing nothing to stop it whatsoever. So I mean, that money should be taken away straight away. But the point is, if you sack Priti Patel, as I said, first of all, you're going to get the pushback because she's a ethnic minority woman, and secondly, you're going to get the fact that, like, unless you're a real dimbo, obviously the buck stops with Alexander Johnson. If he wants that stopped, he'll get it stopped, and he doesn't, as far as I can work out.
Well, I mean, this is the thing with this, is it Nardine Dorries or Nartine Dor?
Nardine Dorries, yeah.
Nardine Dorries, yeah. Like, I mean, she's, I don't know. I kind of have this worry that she's just put there just to placate people. Was more what I was getting at earlier. I think that, you know, because they know that they've slumped a little bit in the polls, that they've pissed a few people off, and so they're just going to throw in this sort of little token gesture to try and.
I still think what Britain needs to do is to take a leaf from Australia's book and say that anyone who arrives in the UK illegally will be sent to Ascension Island, where we build a nice hutted camp surrounded by barbed wire, guarded by a few British soldiers and have a few NHS people there and what have you, and they get deported from Ascension Island back to where they came from. And if we did that, and we did it consistently, those boats across the channel would simply stop.
Couldn't we just do that with Jersey when it's closer?
No, because Jersey's a lovely little island with nice people on it. Ascension is basically a volcanic island.
Couldn't we do the Boris Island and put them on that?
No, but honestly, Ascension's the perfect place for it. It's a British island. It's got a big British military base on it. All we need to do is build it, and it's a volcanic island. There's no trees or fuck all apart from around the edge. The only wildlife there is sea life and birds around the edge. So
yeah, I know, but I think Banksy's boat of leftist activists will probably be able to get out there.
Nah, no way. It's far too far away. It's the middle of the Atlantic, mate.
Yeah.
No one's going to get out, and it's a military base, so we've got every right to stop anyone going there.
Mm.
It's a military base, so you absolutely no one's going to get out there. The right place to put them is Ascension Island in the middle of the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And deport them from there so that they know when they arrive in the UK, they're going to be there for like a week, maybe, in some detention facility, and then they get sent out to a barbed wire camp on this remote, barren island, and they'll be deported back to where they came from there. And I guarantee you, do that for 6 months and all those boats will stop.
Hmm.
Because it's easier to stay in France or Belgium, where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is what everyone forgets. It's not like these guys are arriving on British shores from some terrible war-torn place. They're not. They've gone through umpteen what the United Nations, and I hate the United Nations, but what the United Nations calls safe countries. It's just an absolute excuse, and it wouldn't be against the 1951 Convention on Refugees, Pep, in the chat, because Ascension is a British island. It's a crown colony. It's a British island. We're not sending them outside the country. We're sending them to Ascension, which is British. We'll look at their stuff, and when it proves to be crap, as it 99% of the time will, then they can be sent home.
Well, I mean, the thing about the Convention on Refugees is it's already been reinterpreted anyway by Tony Blair's Supreme Court. So I mean, everyone's fine with it being reinterpreted as long as it's interpreted to mean more immigrants. So,
but why is there still a Tony Blair Supreme Court when we've had a Conservative government for how long now, Atman?
Because we get people like Boris Johnson.
Exactly. I mean, you know, again, listen, this is why I'm not Conservative, you know. I'm sorry. It's just I think the conservatives are a lost cause from a nationalist British
that
point of view.
Nadine, our new culture secretary, she's quite pro Boris, and I'm not sure why.
I mean, I agree with this from Tommy Hill. We should leave the 1951 Convention on Refugees. Yes, we should. Totally agree. Cardamon is saying in the chat, don't the Yanks have a base on Ascension Island? They share the British base is what they do, which is what they do on any British island where there is an American base. They share it, but it's a British base because it's on a British island. And it's got and that would have nothing to do whatever with Britain sending economic migrants there. Mango can't disagree with you at all. The Tories are not conservative. I mean, I don't know. Royal Oak, is there any hope for the Conservative Party? Because I don't see any.
Don't know, mate. I'm not an expert on the topic.
I thought you were our resident, not quite Tory boy. Not quite Tory boy.
Well, I'm not quite now, am I? I've been demoted.
You're not. You're not. You've never been a full-on Tory boy. You've always had a bit of a like, nah, this ain't so good. So I would ask you, because you're probably closest to them in terms of. I just don't see any hope for them now.
Well, I mean, I think it's a question of. I've said this before. I think what the Conservative Party is very good at is getting elected. I think all of their lead. I think I've said this before. Like for the past 100 years, they've been in power for like 80 of it. You know what I mean? Like they're very, very good at getting, voted into power. Right? If there was a cultural shift towards social conservatism, then they just have to follow. I'd say, even if like people in the party wouldn't necessarily agree with it. But I think there probably are. There are the example being people like Nadine Dorries. What's his name? The fella in what's it called? Romsey, I think it's called. His name will come to me in a minute. I don't know. I'm a bit tired. There's a few MPs who are okay. Peter Boney's all right. Yeah, I don't know. I think if there was a cultural shift, then they'd follow it. I think that's just kind of what they do. They sort of follow the mainstream culture, don't they? I'd say.
I couldn't ask you this the other week because you weren't on, Roy. What did you think of the hike in national insurance rates and the fact I think a whole 5 Tory MPs voted against it?
The thing is, I think even Jacob Rees-Mogg said 2 years ago. He said, I think possibly even 3 years ago, actually, he said that it was likely that in the future tax would have to go up to pay for the NHS. That was before COVID. So, I mean, most people in the UK, you'd say, like, you could look at a poll or, ask on the street, 7 or 8 out of 10 people would support a continued public health service. Obviously, like, there's a lot of administration and quangos and things like that in it, but the fact is it probably does need more money in order to continue existing for various different reasons. One of them obviously being health tourism. But I think if people support the NHS, then I'm sorry, you've got to buck up and pay it, I'm afraid. I don't support increasing national insurance, but I think it was, it's just part and parcel of having people expect European level public services with American level tax, and it's just not going to happen. So, I mean, I don't know. That's my view.
Gary Garner's stack of ribs says 99 Iron Duke looks cute in a rah-rah skirt. Mate, you've never seen me in a rah-rah skirt, because if you had, you would know I would not look cute like that. I've got infantry soldiers' knees plus motorcycle scars, so don't go for that one, mate. And even if you did think that, if anyone was gay, that would make you gay. But there we go.
Such a gibble.
Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Duke's end here. I mean, Tory MPs voted against the third. I know the final vote was only 5, but yeah, maybe like earlier that was the case. But it's basically national insurance is really a tax nowadays. It's a tax, and they're charging people for their own damn lockdowns and the rest of it. They've locked you in your houses for months at a time, and we're now going to charge you for that. I mean, it's just craziness. It really is. Adamant, anything else to say on this one?
No. I mean, on the NHS, I've always been quite anti-NHS anyway, or at least I've been big on the idea of reforming it. I don't. I mean, I drive past an NHS mural like every day on my way to work, like one that the residents in this sort of little shithole have put up.
Golden
And
cow, mate. Golden cow.
I hate it. It's
It's the closest the Brits come to a religion these days, as far as I can work out, or at least the
Yeah.
government. You know.
I don't understand why, let's say, like Australia gets to have a more sort of decentralized health service that even still has the NHS name, and we've got to put up with this gay shit.
Yeah, no, it's bullshit. Napoleon, anything to add?
No.
Gary Garner in the chat. You are becoming. I don't ban people often, but I will ban you if you keep this show up. I don't ban people very often, but I will if you keep that crap up. All right, you're gone. See you, mate.
I mean, an army of 10,000 gays sounds quite.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, but Gary Garner has now gone because he's not filling up my chat with that shit. But anyway, apart from anything else, calling me gay is the most ridiculous thing you could possibly think of. Like it really is. Honestly, it really is about the most. Do you know what? I posted a video. Oh, hang on. I've got to tell this.
Oh, I don't like where this is going.
No, this is funny. I was in Settlers Lament's Discord. You know, the Canadian guy. Yeah.
Like it.
And someone had posted a thing that in Italy they're actually paying people to move to Calabria, which is in the south of Italy, which is the poorer and more backward bit of Italy, but with the nicer climate. And so naturally enough, I put up one of my two favorite music videos, The Road to Calabria, which has got all these very pretty girls in very short skirts in a band playing. The video got taken down on that channel. It's still on our Discord. You can go look it up. But Settlers Lament took it down, and I pointed out to these blokes. I said, "I'm sorry, boys, but being prudes and having no sense of humor is not going to win back the West." And I'm going to stand by that one, mate. I really am. I'm sorry. If you are one of these young chaps who believes in white Sharia and we've got to be total prudes and we have no sense of humor whatsoever, that is not going to win back all these normies. It's just like.
But the thing is, if you posted scantily clad boys, you'd probably allow it because Settlers Lament's a bit of a faggot, to be honest. So, just saying.
Well, I wouldn't say that because
he did put me on Twitter for no reason. So
no, I quite like Settlers Lament on the whole, but yeah, I mean, I was very disappointed in that, and because it was a YouTube video, so obviously there was nothing in it that showed any nudity or anything like that. There's no nudity on YouTube, for God's sake. But why the hell can I get people go on about they don't want people to watch porn and they don't want people to be masturbating and all this kind of stuff, although I think even that goes a bit overboard occasionally. But the idea that you can't look at cute chicks in short skirts is bloody ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Right.
I mean, like, wasn't Road to Calabria written in like the 40s, or whatever?
No. It's a 90s tune, I think.
Yeah.
It's like a disco type tune.
Yeah, I don't know. I think some people are just a bit out of touch with reality.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I was like, I get accused of doing this all the time, but I was in the army. And you know what? The guys who used to be willing to go and fight to defend Britain and save women and children, all the rest of it, like most of their reading material was bloody nude magazines. I'm sorry, guys, but it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I wanted to give like a criticism of like that kind of crowd, it's that they like enormously overstate like the social conservatism of previous years. Like a lot of people, even Sargon, etc., do this. Like they talk about how the porn industry at the moment is like really terrible. Like obviously, I don't. I think pornography is wrong as a Christian. I don't like to consume that kind of thing. But the porn industry is actually in a bit of a decline. If you look into it, a lot of people are starting to like see that it's bad, and you'll hear like normal people say, "Oh, you know, it fucks with your brain, it fucks with your brain." That's become quite mainstream. But you know, and you remember even back in Victorian times, you know, at a time that was, you know, supposedly great according to certain people, you know, you had entire districts of towns dedicated to, you know, all sorts of you could say unchristian things.
Prostitution, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, it's obviously a very negative thing. I'm not saying it's a positive thing at all. But it's something that's always existed. It's not existed at some point in time.
Well, I mean, look, guys, I don't know. Have you seen like the art that used to be painted on RAF fighter and bomber aircraft in World War II, for example? Have you seen in World War II, the Daily Mirror ran this series, which was a strip cartoon, literally a strip cartoon, called Jane, which was the adventures of this cute British girl who generally lost her clothes and was like not totally naked, but she'd get down to her underwear, you know. And that was one of the most popular cartoons with all the British servicemen, like between 1939 and 1945. Our ancestors were not prudes.
Well, yeah, I mean, the largest national newspaper in the UK, obviously had page 3 until I think, you know,
the Sun. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, and my old man used to read the Sun, for God's sake. God knows why. When he was conservative, of course.
Well, it was a Labour paper in the 70s, but
no. Well, what is 70s? It might have been in the 70s. It wasn't in the 80s.
It wasn't in the 80s, no. But
it was conservative. It was a Margaret Thatcher backing paper when my father read it. But yeah, it's like our ancestors. They didn't necessarily watch or read porn, but they certainly were not prudes, and they liked pretty girls. And there is nothing wrong about liking pretty girls and not being a prude. I'm sorry. And nationalists, you think there is, I've got a problem.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Oh yeah, I was just going to say, my great granddad, he used to say he only read the Sun for the sport. We obviously had page 3 in it. Anyway.
Yeah. You know, listen, my father like read lots of newspapers. I mean, on Sunday he got 3, I think. I used to read the Telegraph, and then I used to read the Sunday Telegraph. That was the only newspapers I ever bought. But anyway, that was just me. But I wouldn't even buy those now because they're no longer conservative newspapers, as far as I'm concerned. But honestly, if you're ever in the military, the idea that blokes don't have pin-ups on their lockers and all this kind of stuff is just nonsense. I mean, they're probably not allowed them now, but you know, given any natural kind of men and women thing, then they certainly will have, you know. And I just worry that some people on the right, I get that there is this attempted Christian revival, which I'd like to see work, but I don't think it will, to be honest. But there is no way that we are ever going to win back the West by becoming absolute prudes and having no sense of humor. It's not going to happen, guys. We have to retain, you know, I reckon an English archer in the Agincourt campaign would have been quite happy to see a cute chick, you know. I really do. And the idea that they weren't is just crazy. As Mango says in the chat, it's another purity spiral. But you know, I'm an older bloke, so I will ask what Ammon and Napoleon think about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a purity spiral, isn't it? I mean, I'm someone that sort of sides more like I see the importance of that of you know, the idea of having a bit more purity.
I agree.
I mean, I mean, I have noticed as well what you were saying, Oak, about people like anti-porn arguments, but just being a bit more mainstream. But I think there's also this other problem, which is that younger people, like very young people, are kind of getting sort of sucked into this due to the just the tremendous access that they have to this stuff. And I don't know, it's kind of a tough one because it's like there seems to be a generation growing up now that are massively against like smoking, and even drinking. But they are kind of getting sucked in with the porn debate.
I'm not sure if it's true that the generation being raised currently is against smoking and drinking. I think that the percentage of young people that smoke is like really high at the moment. They did a survey. I think it's like 35% or something.
Yeah,
Probably actually higher than that. But yeah, I think it was like they were saying, oh, it's higher than it's ever been on record. But I'm not sure if I'd say that the current generation were against smoking and drinking. Maybe to an extent, but
I know. I saw a YouGov poll recently, and when they broke it down on age, like it's like 18 to 24-year-olds were massively for. Not massively, but quite a large extent, they were for the idea of just banning smoking outright. A lot more than the older generations.
Jesus, adamant. I smoke and I drink and I used to chase loose women. You know, and really, I reckon smoking and drinking and chasing loose women when you're not married is probably not that terrible on the whole. If you're a straight guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Cademan just brought up OnlyFans. This kind of goes into what I was talking about at the beginning of the stream.
OnlyFans is shit. I beg your pardon, but OnlyFans is shit because what it is a way of simps paying huge amounts of money to women who would laugh at them if they knew them really.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's promotion of an antisocial, of parasocial relationship, isn't it?
Getting roasted. Shoot.
I'm
gonna have to get on Microsoft Paint now.
but yeah, so like I was saying earlier, when I was saying about like bus drivers and firemen and policemen and stuff like that, I was kind of sort of looking at this from a very sort of boys perspective. But you know, like young women, like teenagers, I'm not sure if it's in particularly massive amounts, but they're now talking about sort of getting an OnlyFans account when they turn 18 and taking up that sort of stuff. And it's the same thing. It's I want to be a YouTube influencer. I want to be in this sort of 1% bracket of skill, luck, and talent. And you know the fact is that for OnlyFans it's basically the same as YouTube. Only a tiny fraction of those women make anything approaching a decent amount of money. And the cost is they have to sell out their body.
Indeed, yeah.
Well, the display of it, I guess, yeah. You know, my problem with this is, I'm all in favor of guys getting married and having kids, guys and girls getting married and having kids, because I mean, it's a two-way street. But I'm not a white Shariaist of any kind, and I like girls in short skirts and high heels. I mean, they look cute. Sorry. The day I don't think girls look cute like that is probably the day I'll be dead. I don't think they necessarily have to look like total sluts all the time. I don't think they should get so drunk that they fall over. There are things I don't like about the modern stuff, but I don't think we can be. If we turn ourselves into real prudes with no sense of humor, we're just going to alienate ourselves even more from most average people. That's my honest opinion on it. But you guys go for it. You guys are younger than me, so you're more contemporary. Please, Napoleon, are you saying you are a confirmed bender, or are we supposed to be looking at our own?
No.
Because I just think you're lowering the tone, mate. You should probably stop that and tell us what you actually think.
Oh, don't purity spiral. Leave it up.
Leave it up if you want. I mean, it's not pointing at me anyway.
I'm just trying to entertain myself.
That's all right, mate. I'd like to know what you think about this, actually.
So, I mean, in terms of the purity spiral, I mean, I've never really experienced that. I've never really had anyone go too ham on me or anyone else in like a right-wing community for like if you're a prude or if you're not a prude. One thing that I see quite a lot of is posting porn in any kind of server. I mean, that gets shat on quite a lot. And I can understand why, but I think it doesn't really matter if you're a prude or if you're not a prude. I think there's a perfect balance in the community, but that's just what I feel. That's just what I've experienced, so I don't really care. But I don't think there is a purity spiral. It's just I've never really experienced it. I'd say that. I mean, I'm personally against porn, but the thing is, it. Right, I'm not. I'm not a bender or anything, right? But it's a necessary evil because porn is like it. Porn and prostitution, like it opens so many faucets for like trafficking and stuff like that. But the thing is, when you make those things illegal, what happens is it just absolutely it just kind of blows up the market for illegal porn, child porn, human trafficking, and it was the case before the 2000s. I don't know if it is now. So yeah, there are certain ramifications to all these people who want like Sharia and to like ban porn, stuff like that. I'm completely against it, but yeah, it's a very hard situation.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think to an extent it's probably coming from a good place that, you know, our society has gone like way towards in a lot of ways, way towards like the sexualization of things. That doesn't necessarily mean that, like, I don't know, I don't think it's necessarily helpful for people to assign themselves a worldview that even for Victorian times would be considered, you know, not helpful for the continuation of life, you could say, or, you know, maximization of human happiness. But it comes from the place of, obviously, like, we have perhaps you could have educators that maybe say we should normalize pornography, which obviously is wrong. Or perhaps you could say that there could be people trying to normalize other things, and because of that they need to fire back. But I think you have to have a realistic view of what human beings are always like, I think. Which is fundamentally, humans are, this is a bit of a cringe statement, but fundamentally we are sexual beings. Right? I think you can laugh. It's true though, but
yeah, no, all animals are. All animals are.
yeah, fundamentally.
Okay. Hang on. I before I say my say on this, I'm just no. Hang on. Before I say this, guys. Okay, good. Can you please now stop this as well?
Oi, everyone else here is English.
Mutually assured destruction. Stop it. Alan, before I say my bit on this, have you got anything to say about that?
No, I think we've. I think the other two have covered this quite well.
All right, because the only thing I'd say about this is, look, the left doesn't want sexy women at all. Right, the left is totally against the idea. This is why we get the crap movies we do now, where 5'2" women who are about 50 pounds wet beat up 300-pound men in movies all the time, and we're supposed to believe it. And like, you can't show cleavage, you can't show legs, you can't show any woman being like cute, you know. And we seem to be supporting that on the right to some degree. On the other hand, the left also wants things like Huey's, you know, that notorious Netflix movie, which sexualizes little tiny girls, you know, like under 12-year-olds. Yeah. And to me, that is the thing we should be fighting against. Like, if a woman of 25 wants to be cute and sexy, great, let her be cute and sexy. She's doing no one any harm. If blokes fall for that shit on OnlyFans or wherever it might be, that's their fault. Okay, it's not hers; it's theirs. Yeah. They're so dumb that they're doing that. Okay, and I think the thing we've got to fight against is, I don't want children sexualized. Schoolgirls, you know, people under 18 and especially under 16, are in no way, shape, or form something that should be sexual objects.
Mhm.
But if an adult woman wants to be sexy, let her be. If she's got the body to do it, good on her. I don't care. I happen to think, adult women are adult women. And I'm not a supporter of white Sharia, as I keep saying. We are not a Muslim country. I don't want us to be a Muslim country. So,
I wouldn't say white Sharia was supported by like a large percentage of the population. But
yeah, hang on. Here's a woman's view. Lady of Shalott, who's a lady. Who's a lady. Pornography destroys those who watch it, those who participate it from the inside out. It's a useful tool for enemies to use against us. I don't disagree with any of that, Lady of Shalott, but I would say two things. A woman being cute when she's dressed to go out, and I'm sure you've done this in your time, although you're a married lady with 3 kids, but when you were younger, I'm sure you've done this. Women go out and make themselves attractive, and there is nothing wrong with that. That's how you attract a good husband, partly. But also, I don't think nudity, for example, is pornography. Yeah? Nudity in and of itself is not pornography. Pornography has to do with sex rather than just nudity.
I'm fine with banning pornography.
Yeah, I agree.
But would you ban nudity, Adam, in terms of like art and photography and this kind of stuff? Would you ban that too?
Yeah, sure.
No, see, I wouldn't. I absolutely would not.
I wouldn't in an artistic setting.
No, nor would I. Well, nor would I. I mean, so if you look at some of the beautiful paintings of people like Albert Tadma in the 19th century, etc. Like if you ban nudity, half of his paintings would be banned. Would that be right? No, not in my view.
Mm.
Well, I'm just, oh God, this is reminding me of when I was in school when I was about 19. Are we that bad, gents?
Yeah. What? You're being called a Coomer in school?
Yeah, I don't even care about that because, like, I'm used to that now because I've been called that before. I believe that Settlers the Men, that great manly bloke who sounds like he's about 15. I'm not saying a word. I'm not saying a word, but he has talked about the Coomer right.
Yeah, that name.
Who's in the Coomer right then?
It's gonna kill us, boys. I tell you, if they can call us racists and they can also call us prudes, we're gonna be fucked. I tell you now, man. Honestly.
Who's in the Coomer right then?
I have no idea. I haven't watched the men's video yet.
Tory party.
But no, I don't think so.
Iron Duke.
Right. No, well, me maybe, but the entire Tory party, I doubt it. Lady of Shalott says she has had her moments, which I'm sure she has. But the point I'm saying is that, crikey. Like the Tory party are not the right, okay, any more than the Republicans in America are. But the idea that if you support us, you want to stop mass immigration, you want to support marriage and like women actually having children, rather than doing careers that, like sitting in their little boxes for however long they do it, and then suddenly at 35 deciding, oh my God, I haven't got any kids. And I've been on this cock carousel for 25 years. All of a sudden I'm going to settle down, which actually doesn't work. But I mean, whatever. And in addition to that, we're going to be against girls in short skirts and high heels. I mean, how hard do you want to make it for us to win? And what would you call winning?
Not being a bender.
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, that goes like. Listen, I am not particularly in favour of gay people. Okay, I don't want to kill them. I don't want to send them to jail, but I'm not in favour of it. I don't want to send them to jail. I don't
On
want
you
to make
go,
it.
Duke.
I don't want to make it illegal, but it shouldn't be normal.
No, I agree.
I mean, honestly, it just shouldn't. It
But
should-
how do
suppose-
you make it?
yeah.
How do you make it not normal without using
I
sort of
guess
state
that's a blow
force?
to your plans, Oak.
well, first,
What, my plans?
okay. First of all, you gay marriage is ridiculous. Okay, gay marriage is ridiculous. For why? Why would you allow gay marriage? It's absolutely ridiculous, and not even most gay people do it.
Right, but so you get rid of that,
Yep.
and
I would.
then is that enough? I'm not sure it is, but
No, then you ban gay pride parades. I definitely ban those because I don't want semi-naked gay men wandering all over the streets in front of my kid.
That's
Sorry.
another blow
so,
to
but,
Just
so
so.
wait, so I suppose you could bring that back under a sort of like Section 28-esque like policy.
Yep. 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 Because who wants to be able to be walking down the street with their children and to see blokes like fake fucking each other in the rear end? I'm sorry, who does?
I mean,
I
I
don't think
can
it's always
name
fake.
someone.
Then you've got the transvestite story. Well, that should go, absolutely. Then you should get rid of sex education for little kids of like under 10. Why do little kids under 10 need any sex education whatsoever? They're not sexual.
So Section 28.2. That's
Yeah,
what.
yeah, absolutely. I'd support all of that, absolutely. And I'm not even talking about your porn ban, guys, because like how you do that internationally, I'm not sure. But if you can do it, great, go for it. Wouldn't worry me one way or the other. But I don't think we should become absolute prudes. If adult women want to be cute, then let them be cute. Adult women have always been cute. You know, that's one of their things.
Yeah.
So tell me, when have adult women not been cute
I
in
mean,
human history?
I can name a few certain whales who would certainly not be passed out on the street. I mean, you know that, like, I really shouldn't be saying this, but in terms of the whole like female attractiveness thing, I guess if you were like a homosexual, you wouldn't be particularly inclined to that
No.
taste.
Absolutely. I mean, Cardamon's saying in the chat, I would like those Sharia patrols in East London. They stop public. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I would like the British government to stop them. I would like the London government to stop, local government to stop them, but not Sharia patrols because Britain's not a Sharia country. My friend is not the enemy of my enemy. I've been going on about this for ages now, and I'm going to stick to it. And I think Lady of Shalott has the point here. She has the real point here. What is going on in our modern society is they are trying to make the difference between men and women and boys and girls totally irrelevant. But at the same time, the end goal is the normalization of pedophilia. I absolutely believe that Lady of Shalott is correct about this, and she's a lady with 3 children who has actually some skin in the game. Like my son is grown up, so I don't have it at the moment. I will have when I get some grandkids. But yeah, I totally think that's true.
Is Harriet Harman still an MP? Do we know?
We need to ask Royal Oak. He's our parliamentary expert.
Where's Harriet? She was deputy. She was prime minister for a bit, wasn't she? She was like 4 days or something.
Wasn't she involved in that group? And what was it called? The men, boy, yeah.
Paedophile.
Camberwell and Peckham.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a massive majority in Camberwell and Peckham.
Oh, for God's sake! Do you know what? I grew up in that area for God's sake. But of course, there's no white people there left anymore.
Well, other than
There were
Harriet
no-
Harman.
Yeah, I grew up in that area, but in Camberwell and Peckham nowadays, there are no white people left there at all, basically.
So I mean, the thing
Right.
with that was she wasn't. She was a legal officer for a different organization that became partnered with Pi, and she claimed that first off she said it wasn't happening, and then she said that the partnership was there, but she didn't have anything to do with it. But I think that was also like later on pointed out to not be true. That actually she had quite a prominent role in all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, she is still a Labour MP with an enormous majority. I see. This is what we should be fighting against. Is this stuff about pedophilia? Like, this is the ultimate aim of the left. Is like they want to make the difference between boys and girls totally irrelevant, and between men and women totally irrelevant. But they also want to make it so that pedophilia is seen as something that's okay. That is my honest opinion. I believe most of the real left want that. I really believe that. I don't think many of the real left are against that at all. And yeah, the Lady of Shalott has got the right name. It was the paedophile information exchange that she was involved with. And that's the thing we should be stopping. I don't give a shit. Like, if some woman of 23 wants to walk around in short skirt, great. If she's got good legs. If she hasn't got good legs, then I'll just think she's ugly. But you know,
so we'll have like harem police, or not harem police, or Sharia police on the streets, but they will be inspecting people whether they're top totty or not.
Well, I mean, that's what old men have always done. I'm sorry, it just is. It's what guys just always do. You know, you look at a girl and you think, yeah, she's nice, or you don't.
Well, gone, oi, fatty, you're not in the right shape to wear a skirt that short.
No,
Get inside
no,
before we give you a fine.
no. If you are a gentleman, as I always hope I have more or less been, you don't say a word. You just ignore them.
Yeah, but that's how it starts, though, isn't it?
No, not really. You just ignore them.
This sounds dangerously close to you. I think you're next going to say, well, it's not harming anyone else, is it? So
what? Hang on.
Landmines walk around in short skirts.
What? But no. I don't think landmines should walk around in short skirts. But I if they do, I just won't look at them. You know.
You need to stop them though.
Well, yeah, I'd like to do that, but I mean, I don't see a practical way of doing it really, except that, you know, if I would say this, like, if pretty girls are allowed to be pretty girls, then lamb whales are less often liable to do that because they realize that pretty girls are acceptable. See, what the left does is they try and say everything is acceptable.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they say that there's no objective beauty standards, but then they have beauty standards. It's just the inverse of whatever the old beauty standards were.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And you're right, Armin. This is what it is. And so if you have like the general beauty standards that have stood for, like, I don't know, 1,000 years, these lamb whales won't wear short skirts because, like, no one's going to take any notice of them, you know.
So Adam said in chat, that's just resetting the problem another 60 years and you'll be back to square one.
No, I'm not sure it is, Adam, to be honest. I think, like, that's been the way it's been. We could go back to the Bronze Age, and I reckon the average girl who was considered attractive would be considered attractive all the way back to the Bronze Age. So what, 3,000-4,000 years? I don't think it would change all that much.
You bringing that up as kind of made me want to move on to the fucking women with abs thing.
Actually, I was thinking that actually.
All right, well, yeah, we
Oh,
I think in the Bronze Age,
women should not have abs. I'm sorry.
Okay, what? Okay, we have to ask the question: what are abs? Though abs are just like if you're skinny enough, you'll have abs. Like when I was
No. Women
yes,
should
well, if
have
your body fat is low enough, then your muscles.
no. Women should have gently rounded bellies. They don't do that shit.
Well, in the Bronze Age, they probably would. You said the Bronze
No,
Age. You know? I think
rubbish.
in the Bronze Age, women would have
Rubbish.
abs. I think they probably would.
No, they wouldn't because they would have been doing collecting, gathering while their men were out
I
hunting.
think it's quite likely they would.
Nah, mate, you're crap. You're talking shit. I'm sorry. Women would never have had to get abs. You have to work at them, even as a bloke. You have to work to get.
Well, if you have a low enough body fat, the abs are just the muscles poking through your ribcage, right?
Right, yeah, I know what you mean, but the thing is, you see these people, like, there's a very clear difference between people who have abs and don't work for them and people who have abs and did work for them. I think that's what Duke is trying to talk about. That's what Duke is
Sure,
talking.
but I also think the whole girls with abs thing isn't really about women having abs. It's
It's
about
not.
the dynamic between men and women, where
Yeah,
men
it's submissive
simp
men.
are a slightly more masculinized version of
Submissive
female
men.
form.
Submissive men. It's about submissive men.
Yeah, sure. I think
And in that instance, I actually do kind of agree with AA. But yes,
I don't agree that the girl that he photographed was trying to be a man because she's got like nail varnish on. She's actually quite.
She looked like a man to me with those abs. I gotta say,
it's a borderline case, I'd say.
I wouldn't have had
She's got
sex
nail
with her.
varnish. You
Mate,
can see
when I was 25, I would not have had sex with that girl.
Well, that's your personal preference, isn't it? I suppose.
Yes, it absolutely is. Women should have a gently rounded belly.
I'd say I'm not personally attracted to her because she's really very muscly. I think she's a bit borderline though, because I think she did have like a bit of a curve and like a bit of a. You could sort of see like, and she was wearing nail. I wouldn't agree that she was trying to be a man. I think that's probably a little bit excessive, but.
She didn't look like a girl to me, man. I gotta say.
Well, she's got breasts and like curves.
I'm sorry.
It's not like she's if she had short hair and like had because occasionally I think because obviously you can watch like bodybuilding and shit. Like sometimes on occasion.
I never watched female bodybuilding.
Neither have I, but I used to watch vegan games.
I
used to watch vegan games. So. Okay, that's even more embarrassing than watching female bodybuilding, probably. But anyway, like he used to cover like he said if women got like big enough abs, they'd eventually lose their boobs, and she hasn't lost her boobs. So I wouldn't agree that she was trying to.
Yeah, she had a pair of little tiny boobs above all those abs. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm happy to say.
I don't like chicks with small boobs either, but there we go.
There's nothing wrong with having small boobs. I'm sorry.
This is a personal view. I think chicks have boobs and they have women's asses, which don't look like little boys' asses. But you know, whatever. It's just me. I only my.
I would hope so.
But no, women with abs, I wouldn't. No, that's not going to give me an erection. With abs.
Not the abs.
No, it's just not.
What about like really mild? You can barely see them.
None at all. I don't like skinny chicks anyway. Like very, very skinny chicks, I don't like. I like women who are like of average size.
Well, I mean, average has changed quite a lot over the last decade or two, to be honest.
Well, an average size girl might.
An average size girl going back to Rome, pretty much ancient Rome. I see paintings of ancient Roman women. I think, oh yeah, she's cute. But yeah, it hasn't changed that much, guys. I don't think it has. Not if you like pay some attention to, you know, averages, if you like. I guess. You know, I don't like in girls who are oh god, So the thing that AA showed, when was it? The other day, with these girls, with these white girls with these enormous asses, which is an African thing. No, just no. I like women who've got women's heart-shaped asses, but not boys' asses, but not these girls who've got these great, enormous, great things jutting out from their rear end. It's ridiculous. It's an African thing. I've never seen. I mean, but AA was showing picture after picture the other day, and okay, bear in mind he's half Iranian, so he's half Persian. But honestly, I'm sorry, I can't be dealing with women with asses that fat. No way. I'm sorry. That is not a European and British thing. It just isn't.
No.
John Gordon in the chat says thick. Nah, sorry. That's fat. As far as I don't like women with great big enormous fat asses.
Yes,
really
John
don't.
Gordon.
Okay, we get it. We get it.
Yeah, right.
Mind
okay.
you, not a fan of more cushion for the pushing. 2021.
Yeah, I don't like white women who are trying to attract black guys, which is what I think they're doing with that.
Someone clip Duke saying I don't like white women. Oh, sorry.
God, most of the white women I've always liked were either blondes or redheads, so I reckon probably do like white women. But there we go. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, I don't get that. That great big fat ass thing is an African thing. It's got nothing to do with the UK. It's got nothing to do with the Anglosphere. It's got nothing to do with the West.
The thing is, though, I mean, like to tie that back to what we were actually talking about, like that idea that there's like a beauty standard from abroad that's been sort of imposed through cultural norms, it is kind of also like part of the source of the whole sort of abs question to begin with.
All right, I'm going to do what I do so often. I'm going to put on Lady of Shore here, and I think what she says here is entirely true. She says it comes from Black American culture. Nobody wanted a big bum when I was at school. In fact, a big bum was an insult. Girls would throw at each other. And yes, I'm absolutely, when I was a kid, when I was a young man, that was the same thing.
That's a shame. I thought you were going to have John Gordon saying thick on screen for like 30 minutes.
Never. No, man, I don't leave much on screen for 30 minutes. But anyway, I think we've probably... I think we've, unless anyone else has got anything to say about this, I think we've probably killed it. I think it's nonsense, and I think we have.
Nonsense?
Well, the really fat bum I want to look like an
That
African.
wasn't really the topic, though.
African thing has gone, but I also think that like white Sharia is crap, and we need to walk a middle path, as so often, where like if adult women want to be cute and sexy, that's fine, and cute and sexy adult women are great. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that the ultimate way of fixing this is to propose a government department called the Bin Men, and they drive around and they measure everyone's skirt length and check all the women for abs. And if they don't meet the requirements, they get thrown in the compactor.
Well done, Alan. Well done. Yeah, I reckon that's probably the last word on that subject, really. Yeah, go on. If you got something to say, you can.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I have no issue with big arses, okay? Just because I'm not a bender like these others here. I've got no problem at all.
I like women with middle-sized, heart-shaped asses, I have to say. That don't look like teenage boys, but like are not enormous like some African girl.
It's not a perfect
I'm
description.
moderate. No, I'm moderate, in that
To quote the great conservative Nicki Minaj, he don't like him skinny, he wants something he can grab. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't want them fat either. I mean, it's like in between. All right, I think we've probably killed this subject, guys. Let us talk about what's it called? the UK-US, so AUKUS, I believe, is the word they're talking about, whereby Britain and America are going to help Australia build 8 nuclear-powered hunter-killer submarines. Anyone know anything about this apart from me? Because I know loads about it, but you guys can tell me what you know about it.
The French basically launched a massive mission of cope. I don't know if anyone saw that.
Yeah,
They're not very
French.
happy.
The French always do that.
What a bunch of faggots.
It's just French, you know.
Some people were saying like it's colonialism or something. I don't know. You know, there's some black lady. Some black lady.
A French black lady, that
Perhaps. I don't know. Such a thing.
Alman, you heard anything about this one, mate?
Bing bong bong, bing bong bing. Oh, I think he's gone for a second. He's gone for a second.
Oh, hang on, I have to go and check something. Oh, yeah, right, fair enough. Yeah, all right. Well, I've been reading about this, and I've been reading about it on naval websites, which most of you guys probably won't have been because you're not as autistic as me, so you don't look at military websites. Now, the Australian original plan was to build 12 submarines that were going to be based on the smallest nuclear submarine in the world, built by the French, that was somehow or other going to be turned from a nuclear submarine into a diesel electric submarine. And after 4 years of this plan, nothing whatever had happened. And the price of the plan had ballooned out to somewhere between 60 and 80 million. 60 and 80 million Australian dollars. And it was ridiculous because you're getting the world's smallest nuclear submarine, which was the French plan, and you're trying to turn it into a diesel electric submarine, which is extremely difficult because, like, changing the propulsion system from nuclear to diesel electric is a very, very, very big deal. And like I said, after 4 years, the only thing that had happened is that the cost of the program had grown about 80%. So Scott Morrison, who I'm not greatly fond of, he's the Australian Liberal Party Prime Minister, which is the Conservative Party Prime Minister in terms of if you were a UK guy or an American or a Canadian, said, no, we're not going to do this. What we're going to do is we're going to do a deal with the Brits and the Americans, and that's going to give us 8 nuclear-powered hunter-killer submarines. So they're going to be nuclear-powered. They're not going to have nuclear missiles, but they're going to be nuclear-powered, which means they can go and patrol off the Chinese coast for 4 weeks and still come home with no problem whatsoever from Australia, which is what Australia needs. And what seems to be the case from what I've been reading from like military websites is that the Brits are fairly happy to sell the Australians the hull shape of the Astute class British SSNs, nuclear hunter-killer submarines. The Americans, on the other hand, won't sell the Australians the whole shape of their nuclear submarine, even though the British one is actually slightly better, because Congress won't let them. But they will sell the Australians the sensor and weapons fit and this kind of stuff. And also, if the Australians want, they can probably get the British submarine, the British torpedoes, which are actually faster and better than the American ones. And incidentally, the Americans even the Americans can't buy the British sensors from the British nuclear submarines because they're much better than the American ones. So what's probably going to happen is the Americans are going to end up with something that looks like an astute from the outside, but will have American systems on board and maybe British torpedoes. It's going to involve a lot of Australian Navy guys going to UK, possibly to the USA as well, and a lot of support. And in the end, the main point of it is that Australia is going to end up with 8 nuclear-powered 100-killer submarines, which are going to scare the shit out of the Chinese, which is most of the problem, most of the deal. Now, the French deal got broke, not because the French are assholes, although, you know, I'm an Englishman, so my view on the French is pretty conventional. It's because in 4 years, all that had happened with this ridiculous French idea of turning the smallest nuclear submarine in the world into a conventional submarine was the cost had gone up 50%. So, you know, the French are pissed off, but, you know, the French were often pissed off, they get that way. And it's a good deal from the British and Australian point of view. I'm pretty neutral on the Americans, mostly. I'm not great fans of them, but I'm big fans of the Brits and Australians becoming better buddies. And that's my view on it. If anyone else has got anything to say about it, go for it now.
I don't know what was said, but I do think it's a bit of a shame that we have to do this sort of under the supervision of America. That we couldn't just have a UK, Australia, and New Zealand pact just between the three of us. But, you know.
All right, Adam, and the reason this is because the Brits will not sell their sonar and sensors to anyone, not even the Americans.
Mm.
So the Australian submarines are going to have American sensors and systems. Okay,
Are they really that good that we can't sell them to anyone?
Yeah, they really are that good. The Yanks would love them, but they won't pay the money that we want for them, which is a lot, and it should be, because the British astute class submarines are easily the best anti-killer submarines in the world. I watched a video a few weeks ago when they said 3 Chinese submarines were chasing the British carrier task group in the South China Sea. And the Royal Navy said the astute class submarine picked up one of them. And it was such a fucking lie, because they would have picked up all 3 of them long before. And had there been a war, all 3 of those submarines would have been dead. But, you know, the British subs have absolutely the best sonar and sensor systems of anyone. And we will not even sell them to the Americans. Whereas the Americans won't sell the hulls because of Congress. I don't know why. But the American Congress will not sell the hulls of their submarines to somebody else. So I think what's going to, and also the astute class uses about 50% less crew than the American subs do. And Australia is even shorter a crew than the Brits are, because, you know, there's only 26 million people in Australia. So I think what's going to end up happening is the Australians are going to end up with like a kind of an astute class hull with American systems and sonar in it. And I think that will be good for everybody. Including the Australians, and it's going to, the Chinese don't like it at all. They're already moaning because it's going to scare them, because 8 Australian 100-killer nuclear subs, that's going to make the Chinese Communist Party's job much, much harder, and they're already moaning. So there we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
I suppose it's good for bashing the French.
Yeah, and I mean, but like I said, the French spent, first of all, they conned the Aussies because they showed them the world's smallest nuclear 100-killer submarine and said, oh, no, we can easily turn this into a diesel electric boat, which was always bollocks. I'm sorry, it just always was. And so I have no sympathy for them whatsoever in that regard. And like, all right, let me put some money into this. you were looking for Australia to get these 12 little French atomic boats turned into somehow or other diesel electric boats over about 30 years, something like 60 plus million Australian dollars even today. And if you did that 10 years down the track, I guarantee you they'll go up another $20 million. Whereas to do what they're going to do now with Britain and America, Australia, the total cost is probably going to be under 20. So it's enormously saving Australia money. And it's going to give them much, much, much more powerful warships that actually will scare the Chinese Communist Party. And the other thing you've got to look at is it's the Australian government coming down firmly on the side of, okay, we're Anglosphere, we're not somebody else. And it's not just Australia. Japan is already firmly in that field. South Korea, much less so. Philippines, much less so. India, less so, but India is increasingly moving into being pro-British and pro-Western and pro-American.
Yes.
Because they really don't like the Chinese and the crap they're getting on their border with China. And China may or may not turn out to be a paper tiger, but this is definitely a plus for Australia and a plus for the Anglosphere. And I'm all in favor of, we're going to get a lot more Australian sailors serving in the Royal Navy, probably serving the US Navy as well, but that's happening anyway. And also, don't forget, Australia is already, like Canada, building the British design Type 26 destroyer. These countries are already doing this. Trudeau apparently went off a bit because no one told him, but I suspect that's because there's an election there now, and everyone except Biden hopes that Trudeau loses. So we'll see.
That's quite soon, isn't it? Canadian election, the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I suspect Trudeau wasn't happy because he wasn't talked to about this. But I strongly suspect that the reason he wasn't is he would have gone on about this, and because he's a woman, and he really is, he's a absolutely weak soy boy. Why would you tell him about this shit? Because he'd probably mention it otherwise. Lady of Shalott, I did watch that video, but I watched it after they'd done it. Had I watched it at the time, I would have corrected quite a few things that they said in it. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, King Baby Bob wanted to know that. He also says next that Kansuk, I don't know, man. Kansuk's difficult, and it's not least difficult because New Zealand is run by a horse-faced feminist, and Canada at the moment is run by a gay soy boy type person. But we'll see. And even Britain and Australia are run by very, very weak, cucked men, in my opinion. But it's just my opinion, you understand. But overall, yeah, Australia with 8 nuclear hunter-killer submarines, that's not going to make the Chinese happy at all, because they're one of the most powerful warships there are around at the moment. And the Chinese can't counter them very well because their sensors and sonar and all the rest of it are nowhere near as good as ours. And like I said, the British stuff is better than the American stuff, and the Australian ships will probably get the American stuff so far as I can work out at the moment. But it's still far better than the Chinese stuff.
What happened with Boris's, since we're talking about this subject, what happened with Boris's defence budget increase? Do we know? Because I never kept up with that at all.
Yeah, like there are things that have increased. The Royal Navy's gone up a little bit, very, very slowly. Adam is saying in the chat, yeah, they did go over budget because Britain stopped building submarines for quite a long time. And it took quite a long time to get them back online. The good thing now, Adam, is the idea at the moment is that Britain will have 7 astutes. And you will note that Australia is hoping to have 8, with less than half the population and far less than half the GDP of the UK. But the British at the moment are talking about building 3 or possibly 4 Mark II astutes, which would give Britain 10 or 11, which is what 100-killer nuclear submarines, which is what we had around the time of the Falklands War, and now very powerful warships. Tommy Hill, Kenswick is an absurd fantasy. Depends what you think Kenswick is. If you think one government, yeah, then it is. If you think countries joined by free movement of people, free trade agreements, defense alliances, and military training with each other, then no, it's not at all. Then no, it's not at all. Then that's absolutely possible to do. If you think one government, you know, if you're pretending you're going to go to a 1890 British Empire thing, yeah, absolutely is. But that's not what anyone's thinking. No one I know is thinking that anyway. So whatever. Guys, I'm going to give you this to you because I have to go to the loo. So please carry on.
Right. I only came in here like one news story because I only really follow it and the drama that goes on where I live. And there's been quite a bit. So yeah, I've been a bit too interested in that, not in UK one.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of nothing going on down my way. I think
Well, you should.
I think one of my local Tory MPs was spurging out on Twitter about how we need to let Afghan refugees in. That's
Oh dear.
that's about as far as it goes. So yeah, I don't know.
I think we were talking earlier about banning pornography, and I think Ataman, you're pro banning pornography. I think both me and Napoleon are like a bit more skeptical about. I'd say if you try to ban it today, I think you'd have a lot of problems, obviously with like VPNs and stuff, because it's still so much a part of the culture. I think you brought up once on Twitter about prohibition, but the thing is with prohibition, you had years and years and years of stuff like the temperance movement, so much that it became culturally unacceptable. I'm not really sure if porn is to the same level. It would need to become a level of unacceptable in society for something like a ban to work, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it would work practically.
Only slightly over the top. But yeah, I mean, the thing with the prohibition movement, I mean, obviously success has to be measured across like many different things, but it did lower alcohol consumption. But then some people would argue that the cost was prohibitively high. You know, in some instances they literally poisoned people.
Yeah.
So yeah, and as you say, there hasn't been sort of a long-standing anti-porn movement, but I mean, it is something that you could build on. I mean, if you had the power to ban porn in the first place, you have the power to, let's say, bring about an
are we talking about banning porn on submarines?
No, just banning porn generally.
Okay, so did you guys not talk about submarines at all and just went back on the porn?
I
don't
was
know enough about
talking
submarines.
We don't know anything about submarines.
Well, I was just talking.
No, that's cool, right, guys. I'm totally pissed. Hang on, I'm just going to answer this, and then we can go back to porn because that seems to be an obsessive thing for young people these days. Sheepdog says, did you mention the timescale when these subs will arrive? Yeah, the Anglo-American nuclear submarines will arrive for Australia about 7 years quicker than the French ones, even if the French stuff had worked, which it was very unlikely to do. Okay, so all around, this is a good deal for Australia. Okay, we can now go back to porn because this seems to be an obsession with young people these days. On the right, I've never been obsessed with porn. I've watched a bit occasionally, you know. Like I said, God, I always say this. I was in the army, and occasionally, like I remember once, there was this big hall that we used to use in the regiment. And one day we were all said, no, you're all banned tonight because senior ranks are going to be watching porn here. So honestly, guys, you know, if you think your fighting men never looked at scantily clad women, you are in a very strange situation, guys. I'm sorry, you just are. It's like men have always looked at cute girls and liked them. And it's never going to change. Unless you want to become gay. And I do agree that some people on the right seem to want to become gay. But
right, but there's a difference between saying that people have always used porn and existing in the current society. I mean those are
but
no one makes you different things.
one makes you watch it, Armin.
And similarly, you know, there's just the same arguments that like the libertarians make, where they say, well, you know, banning murder didn't prevent murder completely, so therefore what was the point of doing any of it?
Well, okay, but you know, banning murder kind of killed a lot of your most violent people year after year after year. And eventually we ended up with a population that was relatively unviolent. And was that a good plan?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure, Armin?
Yes. Because you're not talking about people that are necessarily able to do violence. You're talking about people that are themselves violent. And that's
okay, yeah. You're not wrong about that. But what I mean to say is that when you someone's echoing, I don't know, when someone's echoing, guys, can you
hang on?
Okay, if you like get rid of the violent people in your society, that might be good in peacetime, but in wartime it's not, generally speaking.
Sure.
And I think UK, as an example, was absolutely fine in 1914, 18 until we killed most of them for no great purpose, in my opinion. And we just about got away with 39-45. And we've got away since then because it's been a few volunteers. Like, it's been a few volunteers, you know? Like, you joined the British Army because you thought, yeah, okay, I want to go and do that shit like I did, you know? And I can do violence, doesn't worry me at all. I can do violence, and it's even quite fun sometimes. But I don't think that's the vast majority of like your modern British males who are under 25. I really don't.
Right, but I mean, the thing is, the biggest loss of World War One wasn't sort of violent thugs who would have been hung for other crimes otherwise. It was the loss of good young British men who were in saner times were similar to us in a lot of ways, but you know, had to be brought up in a different environment.
Yeah, and they had that underlying violence. I mean, okay, like Adam's making a good point here. Did executing murderers handicap us in World War One? Like the guys who got executed in World War One, by and large, were the absolute opposite of murderers. They were people who ran away, or people who went absent without leave for a very long time. Now, okay, they made mistakes in World War One. They did. There were people who were executed in World War One by the British Army who definitely did not deserve that. But did executing murderers prior to World War One handicap us in World War One. Maybe it did a bit, to be honest. Maybe it did. Because there are...
I'm not convinced.
Yeah, no, I'm not convinced, but I think maybe it did. Because... Like, I don't have a problem with violence. I don't.
I think someone who's sort of criminally minded to a violent extreme isn't going to make a very good soldier anyway. So
yeah, okay, criminally minded, you're right, Armin. But like, I can deal with violence quite easily, but I don't like it. Yeah, and there are people who like it, and sometimes in war, the people who like it are good for you. They really are. In war, they really are, honest. So some of got a lot of guys who win Victoria Crosses and stuff like that are guys like that. Hang on, here we go. I've got to answer this. So Tommy Hill says, I call myself a reactionary traditionalist, but come across as a rakish liberty. Where did you work out that those two things were mutually exclusive? Tommy Hill. And explain to me how.
Well, they are pretty exclusive.
No, they're not. Well, tell me how they are.
Well, because if you're fuck it out. See, if you're like a reactionary, you're not exactly like no reactionary that I know is a rakish libertine.
No, not now. I don't care what people are now.
Oh, well, speaking of painters, I think we should get on to some other news.
All right. No, I will ask.
I'm gonna have to call it in a minute anyway. So
yeah, no, we're not going to do much longer. And we might go to the half hour, and that'll be it, mate. Someone's calling me a reactionary traditionalist, but I come across as a rakish liberty. All right. Duke of Wellington, was he a reactionary traditionalist?
No.
No?
I'd say he's a paternalist conservative. I wouldn't say he's a reactionary traditionalist.
No,
he was already out there for his time, though. I mean, he stood against the Tory party on in a few instances when they were they were kind of betraying sort of
Yes, he did.
The sort of right populist public, well, not populist, but the right public, as it were.
Yeah, he did.
The Duke of Wellington was very weird politically for me, from what I know.
Yeah, he was a bit. I agree with that. But he was also a bit of a rakish liberty. He always had a huge eye for ladies.
At times.
No, any women, they didn't have to be Italian. They were always European.
Well, okay.
But my point is, like, you know, he was as far as I'm concerned, the Duke of Wellington was absolutely a reactionary traditionalist. He was also a bit of a rakish liberty. In a quiet way, you understand.
Yes.
Wasn't a big deal about him, but like, you know, Wellington was like attracted to pretty girls all his life until he died, which is the way I think a British guy should be. Really.
Well, can you not be a reactionary traditionalist and attracted to pretty girls? Do you have to be gay?
Well, this is Tommy Hill saying this. I'm not. I'm saying I think Wellington actually was that, and was also a rakish liberty.
Well,
to some degree.
If you ask the Duke of Wellington, "Are you pro-liberty?" he'd probably say, "Yeah." I mean,
yeah, and he was. He was
based
absolutely
on the English concept of liberty coming from.
Yes, he absolutely was. Yeah, he would never have supported lockdowns, for example.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He would have just said, "No, you can't do that." Freeborn Englishman and all that shit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, nice one.
So that's my answer to that one. So if anyone else has got anything else to say about that, go for it. I'm going to move on here. It was brutal. I'm glad you didn't go to that protest, Lady of Shalott, because there was a 70-year-old lady who was knocked over by the police, and her skull was knocked into the pavement, or the road, I should say, really, really hard, and then they pepper sprayed her.
Oh.
After they'd knocked her out, the brave Australian cops in Victoria pepper sprayed a 70-year-old woman as they passed her. And they're only supposed to use pepper spray when they're under immediate threat. But yeah, guys, if you don't understand that Victoria, Australia at the moment is a worse police state than communist East Germany was in about 1960, 65, then you don't understand what's happening in the world at the moment. Because honestly, that is what is happening. And I really, really think you chaps are going to find some of this in the winter. They're saying at the moment that 20 times more people are dying in UK now than they were a year ago. And this is with 80% of the people vaccinated. Now, I don't know how you can possibly work that out.
Well, people weren't dying of other causes a year ago because we were in lockdown.
Yeah, but look, always bear in mind that when they say you're a China virus death, what that means is you died within 28 days of a positive China virus test, which very often doesn't mean you have the China virus. It means you have the flu or even a cold, because all these COVID things are very difficult to discern. And you might have tested positive for China virus and got knocked down by a car 27 days later, but you'll still go down as a COVID death. So the whole thing is bullshit anyway. But all of the media are lying. Like, no one is even slightly investigating the government or the so-called, in inverted commas, scientific figures. And all of us on the right, well, what we're going for is give us white Sharia. We're not looking at this shit.
Well, it's because it's been done to death, hasn't it? I mean, we talk about it every week.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of have to, because no one else does. No one else does.
It's just a tired old story at this point, and there's not a great deal anyone can do.
Well, okay, but if we don't tell people about it, when we get occasional normies looking at our streams, they're not even going to see it, are they?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't think we get that many normies watching this.
I think we get a few, and the channel grows slowly, but it does grow. Like, I 3 months ago, we had under 500. We're up to almost 800 now. Up 600 now. So we are growing a bit, but I don't know. I just think normies watch gaming live streams, not politics, says Adam. That's probably true.
Well, yeah, I mean, the closest they actually get to politics is when their gaming live streamer brings up his shit tier take on politics, a la Destiny, I suppose.
I get checked off of gaming streams sometimes. I did once because someone started talking about Black Lives Matter and kneeling for the European Cup games, and I said that was bollocks, and the guy banned me from his stream. I'm still banned from his stream.
I mean, that's just an accolade at this point, though, to be honest.
Yeah, getting banned. It's cool. I don't know. I try and talk about things which are important. Don't know what else to do.
It's a fair point, actually. Yeah, I mean, so I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Jake.
Go for it, man.
I was just going to say, it's quite interesting. The people were talking about people like Hassan Piker, even Destiny, even though Destiny over here will probably be considered centre-right at this point. But there's not really been you could say perhaps Sargon, but there's not really been a right-wing. You could bring up the examples of people like Vorsh or fucking Hassan Abi and the fucking Mike from PA, that guy. There's all these lefty politics gamer streams, but it hasn't really there's not really a popular right wing a streamer that would get a lot. Sargon streams occasionally, but he's the only one I can think of.
But he's
Because
not
that kind of
right wing.
content.
Soros not right wing. He's centre.
Debate. Say
maybe
centre
we're a bit.
right.
I think we're a bit fierce on him at times.
He's
I think he's a bit more, a bit higher level than he sometimes lets on, and he does a good job of holding his position and keeping it presentable.
Well, he even said a few weeks ago that ethnic English people have a right to England. So I mean, I think he is sort of. I think he's a. I think he was. I think he calls himself a conservative now. So I think he's more just like conservative in terms
Jesus,
of.
I stopped calling myself a conservative. I don't know, 2 years ago.
That's interesting.
I mean, like probably a bit. It's probably a bit cringe, but I do sometimes watch that PSA Sitch and Adam Friended stream.
I watch that. It's good.
Yeah, I watch it while I'm at work. It's a nice and it's kind of nice as well because they're very much more in the centre. So it is kind of refreshing to hear their takes.
I watch that too. Yeah, that's the reason I watch it. So
yeah, stuck in this.
I watch Powell in. And
yeah, but that's just more right wing content though, isn't it? I mean, I watch that too, but
yeah, he's not that
Duke's
right wing.
End. He's
yeah, the Duke's End and Powell in I think are all right. I think they're generally pretty much in line with what I would believe anyway.
But yeah, but I mean, what was I going to say about Sitch and Adam? I can't remember now. Oh, they always get quite vexed about the terms and the way Sargon looks at, especially the ethnic issue. So I don't know. He's I think he's a bit more out there than he lets on.
Yeah, the reason I like Adam and Sitch, and to an extent, I sometimes even watch Destiny, even though I don't want to admit to that publicly.
Oh God, you shouldn't.
Just because they punch left, it's just because they punch left. It's just because they punch left. All right.
Destiny, for God's sake.
It's nice to watch people do anti-leftist videos. Okay.
No.
I don't agree with Destiny on many things. I don't agree with him on many things.
No. Honestly, I watched Destiny and Volsh quite a lot, but that's not because I agree with what they say, because I disagree with what they say. One of the things that people get wrong is, see, if you're like on the right and you don't watch what the left watches, you're obviously gonna like put yourself into like into basically a wall, because probably the biggest problem I've ever had in politics was when I'm going into an argument and I don't fully understand the points that the other person's trying to make, because I don't want to say it, I don't really know how to word it, but one thing that you should do to be successful is to literally try and understand every side of every argument that's possible, because one thing that's quite good is to understand and entertain other ideas without fully accepting them, and I think that's a very good way to mature. So I would suggest that people watch, Volsh and Destiny, try and keep an open mind, but remember that I think they're scummy, and the way that they argue with people is, it's just total bollocks.
I'd struggle to sit through Vaush, I must admit. I think Vaush openly says that like he spreads misinformation. So at least Destiny's like sort of almost good faith sometimes.
No,
I can't watch Destiny or Vaush. They're both left-wing scumbags.
I don't like Destiny, to be clear. I think he's a rootless shitlib. I don't agree with a lot of things he says.
All right, guys.
I'm not saying I agree with him.
Guys, we have a question here, and it's aimed at all of us.
Oh no.
Yep. VC Islander asks, Andrew, Alan, and Rollo, Napoleon, he obviously forgot you. Election on Monday in Canada. Anything to say about it? There you go.
I hope the what is it? Popular Parti du Canada, whatever it's called. Fucking Maxime Bernier's party. According to polls, he's gonna get his I think it's called Boost, his seat, the one that he had for the Conservatives. It'd be nice to see his party win a few seats. I think he's polling about 11-12% at the moment. Maxime Bernier's party Popular du Canada, whatever it's called. Populist Party. Well, Popular Party, I think it's called, isn't it? I can't remember. But...
Adam,
I have been completely detached from Canadian politics over the years. I don't follow it. I don't even consider Canada a true Anglo country anymore.
Yeah.
There's a
I'd
lot of
say,
true,
yeah.
but there's a lot of true Anglo-Celts in Canada. To be fair,
Even I, as the horrific moderate on the stream, couldn't support the Conservative Party candidate. I think Erin O'Toole's a bit rootless. I probably would have voted for Andrew Scheer, but I think Maxime Bernier would be the good choice for right wingers. He looks like he's going to.
But he's a French Canadian, isn't he?
He is French Canadian.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, okay.
But he has a right wing party. So.
Yeah, okay. Napoleon, anything to say on that one?
I literally don't care. See, Canada, I know people from Canada and they say that Canadian politics is the most kind of fucked politics that they've ever kind of had to witness in their life. So I tried to get into it, but it's just so boring. Politics in general is boring, but Canadian politics is just so it's mind-blowing how boring it is.
All right. Well, my opinion on the Canadian election is don't vote for Justin Trudeau, vote for anyone except that gay scumbag filth Justin Trudeau, and Canada will improve. That's my only opinion. I detest Justin Trudeau. So don't vote for him. And if some other government comes up in Canada that's not run by Justin Trudeau, it will absolutely be an improvement.
Talking about Canada though, and since we were just talking about sort of leftist YouTubers, did anyone see the Lauren Southern and Counterpoints debate against the Serfs and that other guy?
I saw the thing at the end that
so
was fucking ultra scummy that he did.
Yeah.
Isn't Counterpoints that bloke pretending to be a woman?
No, that's someone else.
That's
This is
ContraPoints.
a smaller YouTuber, I think.
Oh, okay. Then I haven't seen it. No. I don't really follow Lauren Southern.
It's kind of entertaining to watch. They the Serfs and this other guy, these two leftist guys, they do get crushed pretty badly. I heard that one of them basically completely deleted his presence off of the internet after that debate.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's funny to watch just for the cringe, just watching like Lauren Southern with her head in her hands at these two fucking idiots try and sort of dissect the point and completely failing.
The only bit I saw was the bit at the end where I think it was the Serfs basically said to Lauren Southern, like, you're a white nationalist, like right at the end as his closing point. She couldn't respond.
It's kind of funny though, because the other guy was going the whole way through the debate. He kept saying mass graves, and then when they were trying to get him to define mass graves, he goes,
now I
mass
know what you're
means
talking
big.
About. I know what you're talking about, and I'm sorry. She easily won that debate because the other people were talking crap. This was quite a long time ago, actually.
I think it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, I did see it actually because she was pointing out that mass graves doesn't mean like a pit into which you throw bodies. It means there are a load of graves there which people knew were there forever.
She was trying to talk her way around their definitions. So they were the ones that brought up the term mass grave.
Yeah, because it was crap. Because these people they weren't deliberately killed and chucked into a pit. They died from various things.
I mean, this is the thing. Like, I think they still conceded too much ground to those two in that debate anyway. Because I looked into this stuff a reasonable amount when the news was first breaking quite a big time, and I mean, like the whole grave point is kind of weird anyway, because it's like even Eton has a graveyard on the premises. Like in North America, up until as late as 1950, you know, half of all kids of the age of about 8 didn't reach 15.
Yeah. I remember when I was going around with my girl in an Australian town in Victoria, a little country town. Okay. Because I was looking to write an article about the Eureka Stockade, which is the only official battle that ever happened in Australia, when a British regiment attacked a load of basically Americans and Irish guys who were miners who didn't want to pay some tax because they discovered gold in Victoria. And the British regiment obviously captured the damn place because, it was a British regiment and not a load of miners from Ireland and America. And there were various guys killed on both sides. And I wanted to go and find the British soldiers' graves and also the miners' graves for this article because I wanted to take some photographs. And as I was walking around this 19th century cemetery in Ballarat, one of the things that my girl noticed was, my God, she said to me, how many kids died before they were 5? Yeah, sheepdog in the chat. Yeah, there is a little bit more to it than that, but not all that much more. But the main point of my thing I'm trying to talk about is that in the 1850s, huge numbers of kids died before they were 5. They just did, It was just normal. And so, and the same thing happened really, I don't know, probably up until the 1950s, I guess. It was only really in the 1950s that started going down because we kind of started to get a handle on a lot of common diseases. But until the 1950s, loads and loads of kids died before they were 5, and even more, and slightly less died before they were 10. And so it was very common for families to have 5 kids, and only 2 of them survived into adulthood. It was very common. So that's what you got to look at. And Lady Charlotte here is telling the truth. Infant mortality rate was 50% in the 1850s, and for some decades after that, it was. If you had, as was very common in those days, 7 kids, you would probably expect 4 or 5 of them to survive into adulthood.
I think I didn't watch all of the debate, but I think something that they brought up was that a lot of the times these residential schools were actually ran by the Native Americans a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they were, but also bear in mind the Roman Catholic Church, which is the main one that is accused of all this shit in Canada, was never the official church in Canada.
No.
Canada was an Anglo country, and the Roman Catholic Church wasn't the official deal there. And there was also there were also Roman Catholic missions and orphanages in Australia, which even after World War II, British kids were sent to who had no parents. British orphans, their kids maybe were killed in World War II, for example, were sent to these, and they had a horrible fucking time.
I mean,
my mum was an Irish lady who went to a Roman Catholic school run by nuns, and she detested nuns for her whole life. She thought they were the worst, nastiest, most vicious people there ever were.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, credit to our Catholic brothers, though. I think I do think that's more of a rarity. The thing is, one of the things about the school system in Canada is, there's a particular woman who's very old now, who went to one of these schools back in their sort of heyday, in Canada, and she's like a Native American woman, and she always gets wheeled out. They always wheel out these quotes of her, like when she was talking about it, where she'd talk about how some of the conditions weren't great. But that one of the things they always leave off is that she is herself a devout Catholic, and she still has, despite some of her smaller misgivings, overall quite a bit of praise for the school system that she was in and the teaching staff that she was under, and she praises the education that she got. And
I bet it was a mixture of good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah.
Which is anything humans do, good, bad, and indifferent.
I mean, one of the quotes that guy the Surfs brought up in the Surf, whatever he calls himself, in that debate, he brought up a quote where he said, "Oh, one person said that this was the government's fault," And the person he was quoting was one of the priests that ran one of the schools. And what the priest was actually saying was that they were warning the government that they weren't getting enough funding, and that they were struggling to accommodate the children, in a safe environment, because sometimes the conditions were a bit cramped, and it meant if disease broke out, it broke out quite badly. And what he said was something along the lines of, as far as he was concerned, after all his warnings, if the government didn't do something to prevent this, and people ended up dying, he would consider it the government's fault. It was actually what he said. So, it was way more nuanced than the guy was giving it credit for.
Yeah, and like I said, Catholic Church was never the government church in Canada. So why is that the Canadian government's fault? Did they get enough money? I doubt it, because when the bloody hell has anything ever got enough money? You know what I mean? But there was no deliberate attempt to kill people in Canada or anywhere else in the old Commonwealth. It just wasn't what we did.
No.
But I mean, the thing is, the media over there is just engaged with this stuff wholesale, and we've seen.
But they're copying from the Americans, and they're trying to import stuff, racist stuff, from America, and Britain is doing exactly the same thing.
But half that stuff isn't even true in America, though.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's less true in Canada, and it's even less true in the UK. Like, there were almost no black people in the UK prior to 1948. Almost none. I mean, okay, maybe there was 1,500, but there was none.
20,000.
No, not even.
It was
not even.
I'd say it was around 20,000.
If you counted every single half Indian or half West Indian or half African person, maybe just about, you'd have been pushing it, mate, in 1948.
Well, this is just based on numbers that I saw quite a while ago. Actually, I'm not sure it was quite a while ago. I'm pretty sure it was just like a month ago.
Yeah, where did you see them?
Hang on, let me try and get them.
Yeah, I've always tried to look for reliable census data from sort of before World War II. It can be quite hard to come across at times.
It can.
I did find a website that did claim to have census data on immigrant groups in Britain, and it went because this guy was trying to tell me that we brought in all these Russian immigrants, and I was saying to him, well, actually the numbers were quite small compared to what people probably think.
Yeah, but even if we brought in Russian immigrants, and occasionally there were French immigrants, and there weren't that many, and it was over a long period of time, and they had nothing to do with totally non-European people. Simple Pirate is asking, was Rudyard Kipling an Indian or British? He was British, but because he lived and was born in India, he understood India very well. But he was absolutely British.
Can you though? I mean, can a British person of such British disposition ever really understand India?
I don't know. The only thing
vastly different to our own.
The only thing I can say is that Indian guys who like India have said that Kim is one of the greatest novels ever written about India, and it was written by Rudyard Kipling. So I don't know. I can say that.
I put the thing in the private chat.
No, Tommy Hill is totally wrong here. 100,000 prior to 1948, rubbish. It was way lower than that. Way lower than that. Private chat. Let me go and check, mate.
Well, that's like 1/3%.
Yeah, but I don't think for 1 minute it was even that much, to be honest.
If you go to page 101, it should say by 1916, blah, 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 he's in the process of black immigration. By the end of the war, Britain's black population had probably doubled to 20,000 people.
Who are you including in that?
Well, that's just what
Are you including the Black Americans who were here for a little while?
No, I don't think so.
See, I just don't. Well, so where's that population coming from?
Africa,
No one was moving. No one was moving Indian.
I
and
mean, you don't
African.
get Africans from Asia, so
Yeah, but no one was. No one was moving black troops into UK in World War II. So no, I just don't agree with you, mate.
Well, you said okay. Well, you said prior to World War II, and that's the numbers that we have.
Yeah, I don't agree that like it was anything like 100,000.
Well,
Although,
no,
as Adamman points out, even that is a tiny percentage. But it wasn't that high. There were like areas in UK, generally around ports, like Swansea, which had a certain number of black people in them. So you would have had Swansea, Liverpool, Glasgow, London, where there would have been a limited number of either black, mixed race, or Indian people, but they would have been a very tiny minority. Like my father, who was born in 1933, did not see a black person until he went to Egypt in the army in 1951. Never saw one. Never saw one.
Okay. What if we include Irish people in that number? If I told you that more than 20,000 people.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to go there.
Lived in England.
We're not going there. We're not going there.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Very.
Go.
The number was
Yeah, I don't
just
blame Adam, and I don't blame you. No, we're not going there, Napoleon.
Right. Talk to you later.
Yeah, go on, and thank you for coming on. No, I'm sorry, guys, you can't do that. Like, there were very, very few. Mitch is actually right here. Here we go. This is about more accurate.
Well, I'm going to have to go too because people have been wanting me to do something for the past half hour, but I'm going to have to go off now. So
thank you for coming on, Napoleon, even though I'm not going to ever accept your Black Irish argument. So there we go.
All right.
What a shame.
My ma was Irish for one thing, so there we go. All right, Rollo, anything else to add, or we're going to shut this down? All right, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Good stream.
Yeah, well, I was all right. We probably got into all sorts of nonsense. John McNamara is saying, Duke actively covers up the Irish question. No, I don't.
Very nepotistic, sometimes, Irish people.
No, I don't actually. I mean, like, there's good Irishmen and bad Irishmen. Just like there's good Englishmen and bad Englishmen. Fuck me, and there's a lot of bad Englishmen these days. Mm-hmm. But anyway, okay, we're going to do what we usually do, or I am, and play us out with a tune.
Here's a health unto his majesty, confusion to his enemies, and he that will not drink his health, I wish him neither wit nor wealth, nor yet a rope to hang himself. With a fun, la 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 la, with a fun, la 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 la. All cavaliers will please combine with a fun, to drink this loyal toast of mine with a fun. If anyone should answer no, I only wish that he may go. with rounded rogues to Jericho. With the fun, la 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 la, with the fun, la 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 la.
Okay, there we go. That was a rounded song from the English Civil War. I would most certainly been around it in the English Civil War, just because the king was tradition, and tradition is king. All right, guys, we'll see you next week for Splendid Isolation number 41, I hope. Sometimes I don't know, guys. Let's not become total prudes and people with no sense of humor, because we will not win the West back that way. So, okay, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Good night, guys.